Russell Wilson is a member of the New York Giants. So, listen, Russell's obviously a declined player at this stage in his career. I think the fact that obviously he was with my Steelers last year, there was the start with the deep ball, the moon ball was working with George Pickens. They went on a win streak and they were 10-3 at one point. I'm thinking, hey, I'm not saying we're the Super Bowl favorites. Kansas City's still there. Buffalo's excellent, but gosh darn, we match up well against the Ravens. We may have something. Maybe we could win a playoff game, maybe two, if we want to get really crazy. And then the offensive line started to get injured. George Pickens had injuries, and then defensive coordinator started to figure out Russ, and that was pretty much the end of the Russell Wilson experiment. And in Pittsburgh. So now he's a New York Giant. So listen, he's a good veteran presence in the locker room. I think he's done a good job at repairing his image over the course of the last couple of years. That year with Sean Payton, now with Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Now he's with Brian Daboll, who, let's keep it real, they're Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen, they're fighting for their jobs. The GM of the Giants, the head coach of the Giants, fighting for their jobs right now with the Giants. To me, the story is not Russell Wilson. To me, the story is not, at least the main story, is not Aaron Rodgers, and the fact that unless the Steelers maybe gain some self-respect in the next few weeks, as they're currently being held hostage by an old, washed, distracted quarterback, Aaron is probably going to be a Steeler, and we'll get to that later on the show. To me, the story is Shedeur Sanders, because what you're seeing right now is we know Cam Ward's going to go number one. Like that feels like a foregone conclusion. Whether the Titans will trade it, I've heard some rumblings about that. I would be really surprised. Tennessee needs a quarterback. Tennessee needs a reset at that position. Will Levis is obviously not it. He's bad. I was a Will Levis believer from the jump, and I don't even know who their backup is. It's not going to work. Their backup is Mason Rudolph, who's now back in Pittsburgh. So Cam Ward's probably going to go to the Tennessee Titans. Maybe Cleveland takes Shedeur Sanders, but I think, listen, Cleveland's going to be bad this year. Deshaun Watson was probably out for the year. If Deshaun Watson was starting, they were going to be probably even worse than what they were going to be. Deshaun has fell off a cliff since the off-field incidents. Cleveland, I think, is banking on the fact we're probably not going to be that good this year. Let's just get the best play in the draft. Let's get an Abdul Carter. Let's get a Travis Hunter. I feel like Abdul Carter to the Browns feels like a surefire fit there. You put him opposite Myles Garrett. That's a scary pass rush in Cleveland, Ohio. I bag on the Browns all the time. That would be special on both sides of the defensive line. But then you go down the NFL draft order. Okay, number 3 is the Giants. Well, now their quarterback room is Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, who they've signed in the last 24 hours, essentially, and then Tommy DeVito's still there. And listen, Tommy DeVito ain't that good. Certainly, his production does not meet his popularity in the state of New Jersey. At the same time, Giants fans seem to like him. He's at least a good third string. And so my guess is he probably still is. He'll probably be the emergency quarterback. Look down the list. Patriots 4, they have Drake May. Jaguars 5, they have Trevor Lawrence. Vegas Raiders are 6, they have Geno Smith. The Jets are at 7. Maybe the Jets take him. I think the Jets right now are kind of with Aaron Glenn, who I think if the ownership, Woody Johnson, allows Aaron Glenn to be Aaron Glenn, can really build a good culture there. I'm an Aaron Glenn believer. I think right now, year 1, let's set the culture. Justin Fields kind of placeholders, kind of the bridge guy. Then we'll get our guy next year. And what's an excellent quarterback draft. Continue to look down. Carolina, I'm liking what I'm saying from Bryce Young. Second half of the season, I heard y'all heard me talk about the show. Liked what I saw from Bryce Young. Down the list, Saints at 9, maybe. Again, cap situation. Maybe they take Shedeur Sanders. That's on the board. Bears at 10 have Caleb Williams. Niners at 11. Purdy, I feel like, is going to be the quarterback at least this year. We'll see if the contract stuff works out. Cowboys 12, they have Dak. Dolphins 13, they have Tua. Colts 14, they're going to roll out Anthony Richardson. Daniel Jones is going to battle that with him. Falcons 15, they have Penix. Cardinals have Kyler Murray. Bengals have Joe Burrow. Seattle has Sam Darnold. Keep looking down the list. Bucks have Baker Mayfield. Denver has Bo Nix. Chargers have Herbert. Packers have Jordan Love. Like, you keep looking down the list. I think it is very much on the board that we see, barring a trade. And what's weird, we haven't had one first-round trade thus far. I know we're still late March. We have about a month to go before round 1. But I think this situation could be similar to Will Levis. Now, Will Levis fell in the draft because, A, not accurate in college, made some awful decisions, in terms of reading defenses. He was not good at that whatsoever at Kentucky. He was an arm strength talent, and that was it. I was not a Will Levis believer. Will Levis also fell because he interviewed very poorly. From what I'm hearing, I don't think Shedeur is interviewing poorly. For the record, I think Aaron Rodgers, y'all hear me bag on Aaron Rodgers all the time. I think rightfully so. But the book on Aaron Rodgers by Ian O'Connor, who did a great job, some of the stuff that was getting said about Aaron was just, at least the way I interpret it, was, yeah, Aaron's confident in himself. Hey, Aaron's okay telling you what he's good at. Okay, good. Market yourself. Great. I have no problem with that. If that's the knock on Shedeur, I think it's a bad one. But at the same time, there is a level of, okay, he doesn't have the physical traits that Cam Ward has. He plays a little bit similar to Cam Ward. Cam Ward has had it by the numbers a worse offensive line than Shedeur Sanders had. As questionable as that O-line was at Colorado. Big 12, if you look at the numbers, most of his good games were against bad Big 12 teams, Oklahoma State, etc. And so it's a little bit, again, I don't think it'll be this bad. But Zach Wilson, I remember when Zach Wilson was coming out of a BYU. I saw Zach Wilson play live at Tennessee a few years before he was drafted. I'm like, it's fine. I don't really see number 2 overall pick. I don't see that type of upside for this kid. Kind of feasted off of bad teams. BYU at that point, I believe, was still independent before they joined the Big 12. To a certain degree, that's what we saw with Colorado last year. Big 12 wasn't that good of a conference. Arizona State kind of got hot at the end of the year, but feasted on bad teams, middling teams in that conference. Whereas Cam Ward, ACC wasn't exactly world beaters. Cam Ward put up good numbers against some of the best ACC schools, such as Syracuse. He was good in those games. So I think it's not a good quarterback draft. We know this. I mean, the fact that Jalen Milroe is being discussed as a potential option for my Steelers, I don't trust it to develop quarterbacks as is. That's why I think the current regime probably isn't the best option moving forward. Jalen Milroe is not a first-round talent. Second round, maybe. There's a bit of a Jalen Hurts quality there. But Jalen Hurts was a second-round talent who was developed over the course of time. I felt pretty confident the Giants were going to take Shedeur. Now I think it's off the board. I think it has to be. I mean, unless you're going to cut Jameis and Tommy DeVito, that's one thing. Unless you're just going to cut Jameis, we'll see. But it's that Russell Wilson move. The first thing I thought of was like, okay, they're not taking Shedeur. And maybe that's a smart move in the sense that, okay, we're going to trade down, get some draft capital. Again, the Giants, they're going to lose. Some of these guys are going to lose their jobs, so maybe this is the strategy. But we're not going to be that good this year. Similar to Cleveland's strategy, get our guy next year. We'll see. But the Russell Wilson move said far more to me than about Shedeur Sanders than it said about Russell, Aaron Rodgers, Jameis, any of those guys. I mean, you look down the list, a lot of these teams in the middle, which is around really where Shedeur should go in a good quarterback draft, mid to late first round, all those teams have their guys. I mean, there was a situation where some of these teams had injury-ravaged years, like Dallas, like San Francisco, like the Bengals, where their quarterbacks are more than competent, more than good enough to get the job done. Burrow's obviously on a different class than those other guys, but they're not quarterback needy. I mean, I could see the Saints potentially deciding to go after, to go after Shedeur, but Derek Carr is a pretty expensive backup, and the cap hit would not be ideal. So there you have it. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.